And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name's Clevr, and today I'd like to thank Snow Breezy for having suggested this video. I'll try to keep it quick and get back to gaming as soon as possible. As some of my older subs will know, a while back I had surgery on my shoulder. The procedure I had done was called a Distal Clavicle Excision, and Snow Breezy asked that I do a follow-up to my original post-surgery video so everyone who is curious can know a little bit more about my experience. First off, I'd like to thank the doctors. They did a phenomenal job and answered all of my questions before and after my procedure. My surgeon is actually considered among the best shoulder doctors in my state and is held in high regard by his staff and former patients. I feel with every surgery and procedure you have done, it's really important to do your research and find a doctor that you're comfortable with. All right? You can't just walk in and the doctor tells you nothing and you have no idea what's going on. It just doesn't work all that well. So make sure you're comfortable with your doctor. That's one of my biggest pet peeves with having a doctor. Especially as it pertains to surgery. Don't fool around with it. There's no reason. Check all the reviews on them. Talk to people. If you know any nurses that have worked with them, just go wild and ask away, because it's your livelihood at risk. So I always recommend that. My last video was actually made hours after surgery. I'd like to talk a little bit about what happened and why I had the procedure. It was probably about a year and a half ago, and I slipped in some mud and actually suffered a grade 3 separated shoulder, which I decided to treat conservatively, and I opted not to have surgery on it, as in most cases there's no benefit of having surgery to repair the AC joint in a grade 3. So about a year after that initial injury, I was still dealing with pain and a lot of fatigue in my shoulder. The worst pain came with lifting objects overhead, especially heavy objects. The heavier, the worse it was. And my collarbone would actually catch and slip. So the end of the collarbone that's like right over in here, it would catch the other bone that it used to be connected to, and it would just kind of hold there, and then slip after I lifted it up. And it would cause a very sharp pain, and it was very uncomfortable. My shoulder would buckle, and finally I had enough. So I decided to speak with my shoulder specialist about my options. Repairing the joint was not really an option for me, as I could truly not see the benefit of having to miss months of work and go through 6 months of physical therapy. For me, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. So instead, I actually suggested to this renowned surgeon, not to tell you how to do your job, man, but I actually suggested and asked to have a distal clavicle excision. Sorry, I'm going off notes here because I want to make sure I cover everything. So I don't want you thinking I've prepared stuff. I'm just trying to make sure I hit all the bullets. So I actually suggested to have the distal clavicle excision and asked him about it. I actually had a former teammate on a baseball team have a similar injury and a similar surgery, and as I talked to him about it, he had a good experience with it, so I figured maybe it would work for me. I don't know. So, guys, here's a heads up. This next part you may want to skip over, gloss over, or just shut the video off, because here are a few photos of what my shoulder looked like on the inside. My incisions are completely healed, so you can't really see them on camera. Plus, I do a lot of cupping, so there's just a lot of like circle bruises here. So even if I showed you the incision, it looks no different than like anything else like on the skin. Like you have to be like feeling it to even tell where it's at. They're so small and they healed really well and quick. So I'm not going to bother showing those like some people do. But yeah, I want to show you what the end of the collarbone was and what was actually causing my issues, because it's a little interesting. Shut the video off now if you're squeamish. Alright? Skip ahead if you have to. Whatever you need to do. I'll give you a minute. Alright. So, they looked at my shoulder, and I actually have this right here, so I'm going to look at it as reference. They looked at all of my shoulder, and they took photos of stuff like I can see my biceps tendon and, you know, all the other tendons and the bones in there. So that was pretty cool. I mean, I never thought I'd get to see my own biceps tendon. So, hey, the more you know, right? So those were perfectly healthy. I had no issues with any of the stuff they check in the shoulder scope, so that was good news. However, of course, being me, there was something that no one, including this doctor who's done thousands of procedures, beyond thousands, I'd imagine, no one had ever seen this before. So if you look at picture 9, you can see that's the end of the collarbone in the background, and then he has a metal instrument underneath it looks like a white shiny tendon thing. It's not a tendon though. It's not supposed to be there, and the way it was attached makes absolutely no sense. There's no reason that was in my shoulder. They do not know what it was. My surgeon said it was gristly and extremely difficult to remove, but they got the whole thing off. And they actually believe that this is why my shoulder was catching, because it was positioned directly. It would flap over the end of the collarbone, and it would go in between where the AC joint used to be and actually kind of force it to hold there. And then as I'd put more force on it, it would slip, causing that catch and pain, and that is what they think most of my pain came from. After he removed that little weird tendon, in picture number 12, you can see what the final picture looks like of my clavicle. That's the end of the clavicle, as if you're looking right at the right down the line, like holding the bone in your face. He shaved off a couple centimeters and freed up a ton of space so that this collarbone cannot touch, rub, or hit anything, no matter how I move, and I move like a freak show. So a couple centimeters was plenty for me. Since then, I can tell you right now, before I get to the end of the video, I've had no issues with it catching. It's completely solved that issue. I'm going to talk a little bit about after surgery now. After surgery, as you guys probably saw, if you watched the last video, I had no pain, and I was actually given, through my insurance, a $200 sling that I could sleep in at my first therapy session. And the sling keeps your arm in the correct position, slightly away from your body, and, you know, at the proper height and all that stuff, and it immobilizes your shoulder at night, and it's actually really cool. Like, it even has a ball you can work out your forearm muscle with, so it was a really cool thing. Unfortunately, I didn't have much of a need for it, and I'll explain that now. I got my stitches out about 1 week after surgery, and I was healed up quite nicely. Like, the skin was completely healed. The stitches hurt so much coming out because it was like healed around them, which is the worst time. I wish they took it out just like right before it was completely healed, but you know, whatever. Not much of a gripe. After the initial week of recovery, I was supposed to be in the sling for at least another week. Yeah, and my rehab was supposed to go very slowly, as most people who have this procedure done have quite a bit of pain with the operation, especially during rehab, physical therapy. I say this happily, but also as a little bit of a warning to you. I was the only person the doctor and the physical therapist had ever seen have full mobility and range of motion the week after surgery. I also had no pain at all with any movement, like absolutely anything. I could do anything the first week after surgery. Slightly before then, actually. So I didn't use the sling. I didn't use the sling after the second day following surgery, and shh, keep this between us, but I actually had full mobility the second day after surgery. I don't know what to tell you. I think I was just extremely lucky. I had full mobility, range of motion, everything 2 days after I was cut open. I had no pain with any movements. Well, I will tell you, I did have some discomfort. And the most discomfort I had was due to the swelling, which you will have with surgery. Basically, every time you have it, you're going to have swelling, fluid buildup, and all that stuff. The swelling was pretty noticeable, and it traveled down my whole arm. My left forearm was sore for a couple weeks, but, I mean, honestly, it wasn't anything worse than, like, a general ache, you know? Nothing too bad. Let's see here. Is there anything I'm missing? Oh, yeah. I ended up going to physical therapy for about 5 weeks. It was just to keep the scar tissue broken up as my body continued to heal, and to re-strengthen muscles that were weakened in my shoulder. PT was a cakewalk, honestly, for me, but please, you shouldn't expect to have absolutely no pain with full mobility after a day. My experience was my own. And if you're going to going into this procedure or any other, I strongly suggest that you talk with your surgeon and figure out what to expect. Yeah, they'll have more answers than I will. I mean, by all means, I should have been in some pain following my surgery, and I just wasn't. Today I am about 5 months post-op, and I feel great. My shoulders both feel the exact same. If I had amnesia, I would never know that I hurt either one of my shoulders. I no longer have any fatigue or pain, and honestly, I couldn't be any happier with this surgery. I would do it 100 times over again, and yeah. I don't think I missed anything. I think I got everything. I hope. If I didn't, leave a comment down below and ask any questions that I may not have answered. I think I got to everything that I had to say, though. I mean, that was basically my entire experience. There's not a whole lot to talk about, unfortunately. I just healed so quick. I wish... Like, I got the physical therapist laughing because, like, all their, like, tough stretches, I would do them, like, perfectly. And my injured shoulder was actually healthier than my operated on shoulder, I should say, was actually healthier than my non-operated shoulder. So, figure out how that works, huh? But, yeah. If you found this video informative or entertaining or whatever, leave a like. And with that, I bid you adieu, a fond farewell, until we meet again in the next video. Bye-bye.